I've seen a lot of horror in the gaming world. Tank controls, 3D, 2D, stalkers, exploration, but seeing a horror game labeled as brainwashing is something pretty new to me, so I was instantly interested when a game like that came to PS4 and Switch not long ago. Based on a collaboration between 2D horror game Suganohi and Japanese VTuber Inugane Korone, let's dive into this weird you only walk left horror game. Here is my review of Evil God Korone for the Nintendo Switch. With story, you are the protagonist, a normal guy in a small town just walking home from work, planning on watching some cute VTubers in his free time. But as he walks through his town, he notices weird changes with the people and even the businesses. A doctor tells him to get out while he still can, and little signs of the VTuber Korone slowly popping up across town, almost as if she herself is somehow taking it over. I find the story of this game to be pretty interesting. I can't say a whole lot due to spoilers, but the way the town changes from day to day, and especially when the big shock happens towards the end, is really intriguing. Now, fans of the VTuber Korone will get a lot more out of this game if not. To a casual person like me, it just looks like really creepy imagery, though a lot of those are actually references to things the VTuber does on her actual media channels. When it comes to gameplay, this is a 2D horror game with side-scrolling elements. As you play the game, you walk to the left and see dialogue pop up as the story plays out. And that's pretty much it. There is one sort of dialogue choice late in the game, but you really just move to the side for the entire adventure, and it isn't really that interactive. As far as this version of the game, the Switch version isn't really that different from the PC outside of not having a mouse cursor. Though it does do something a little interesting that many Switch games don't do. Korone doesn't use any of your profiles or accounts to log in. That means progression is not tied to any of your profiles and will not pop up in your play history. Now, I've had the Hulu app do this, but I felt Hulu did it to make sure a non-compatible region didn't use it. I can't really think of any reason for why this game does. Now that that's out of the way, let's go into main progression. This game has you go across several different days where you walk to the left across the same street on your way home from work, uttering dialogue from time to time, first talking about VTubers and later on how things are changing. It's a rather simple game. Like a visual novel, you're more geared towards watching the story unfold versus running away from or fighting horrifying monsters. Of course, this sounds a bit repetitive at face value, but that's what is most interesting about this. On days 1 and 2, you get little hints about what's actually going on with the protag's dialogue towards VTubers and mentioning Korone, and then things start happening and changing. At first, it's words being replaced on signs or extra NPCs in the background, and you watch the town slowly devolve and degrade over time. Kind of like how Silent Hill transforms from the fog world to the other world, but much slower. And it's interesting because, yes, you're going on the same street every day, but with every day you go in thinking, okay, what's going to be different today? What's going to happen here that didn't happen before? And that goes straight into the fear factor of this game. I would not call this game scary by any stretch of the imagination, but creepy and disturbing definitely is something this game is. At the end of each day, you see a little brainwashing animation around a poster of Korone, almost as if it were trying to influence us, the player, and tying into the underlying brainwashing themes of the entire game. That adds to the fact that pretty much everything in this game is really creepy. The way everything changes visually from the environment to the actual buildings. The game has a lot of unsettling audio cues and sound effects, including the death rattle that many people will remember from Ju-on, aka The Grudge. It's even down to the way a lot of the NPCs look as they walk around or talk in the later days. Now, even with the changes, you might still think this game might be repetitive, but it's a really short adventure. There isn't really room for moving off the main path, so pretty much every run through the game will take no more than about 30 minutes. Now, there is a second ending obtained upon replaying the game, which I absolutely recommend doing. While the first ending is a great and tragic ending to a horror experience, the second one gives a lot more lore and information on what's going on, and I really enjoyed replaying the game and getting that other ending. But I'm not going to say that the entire second playthrough was different. It wasn't. Everything was exactly the same up to the very end where you have a dialogue choice and an extra option shows up. It is just the second ending that's different. Next up is presentation. The game looks pretty good, though there will be little blemishes based on how the game was originally designed, but you gotta look really close to see those small, slight little jagged edges around the models. But outside of that, the game is presented in a 4:3 ratio and this cannot be changed. There's no setting toggle here, and actually you can't pull up a pause menu or setting menu anywhere in the game. But the game still looks very good with its style. Everything is 2D and there are several layers of things going on, like NPCs walking in front of the player, behind the player, lights and things moving in the background, and it looks very good, especially when you get to the later days with more things going on in the background. Performance is pretty good as well. I did notice some little hiccups here and there where the game would hesitate for a moment or so as you walk through the main area of the game. It's not a huge thing, but it's pretty clear with the little hiccups happening as you're going through this nice little flow of walking and suddenly you hiccup for a moment. That's all I've got for performance, so let's go into battery life. Korone will give the original and light models a battery range of 3 to 4.5 hours, while the V2 and OLED models get 5.5 to 6.5 hours. In conclusion, Evil God Korone is a wacky and creepy little game about a VTuber brainwashing and just walking left as you see your town slowly devolve into something unsettling. Now on the downside, it's a very small bite-sized adventure and has some little hiccups when walking through some days. But if you want a tiny adventure you can knock out in less than an hour, or just like the VTuber Inugame Korone, it's quite the creepy little trip. Reviews to go rates Evil God Korone for the Nintendo Switch an 8.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.